point.
La-Rhonda,
Hold on.
recap where it cut you.
All right, go ahead.
So we were talking about communication. Valencia, you posed a question about, some tips on how to communicate more effectively with your mate or your spouse, your partner.
Hmm.
And so one of the things that I find to be very powerful is this, and it's not always easy, but it helps. And that's silence. Just, just listening.
Just
Like we just
Zip it, lock it, and put it
and
in
just listen.
the
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it does a couple things. So one is going back to what I was talking about the amygdala. Like when you're in that stress response, it helps you calm down. So
mhm.
just like, but it gives you a chance to pause and think things through more clearly, and then it also demonstrates that you are truly not only listening, but you're hearing what the other person is saying. So when you silence, like when you literally say to yourself, silence. Because when you do that, you're not waiting to give a response. Because, a lot of times when we want to defend ourselves, to defend our point, we wait for them to finish talking so we can make our point. But silence helps you to just really sit and listen. Now, let's say that your partner is being extremely provocative and even disrespectful or like too aggressive. One of the things that I've also used and I find to be very powerful, it could be kooky. It sounds kooky, but it can be really helpful. And this is not original to me. I learned this from somebody, and I said I need to use this, and I found it to be helpful. Literally, do you guys have you guys seen the movie Frozen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so you see, so you literally think about it in those terms, in terms of the movie Frozen, and see yourself blowing on a person, and see a form of ice surrounding them. Literally, like you got to just see them frozen, like they don't like. So it's not that you're discounting them. It's you're protecting yourself because you have to love yourself. You have to love yourself before you love others. Love others as you love yourself. So if it's becoming a very unloving thing for the person to say to you, you have to kind of freeze them, and that'll help you too. And then another thing for you in terms of your own communication, this is one of my core values. What is the most loving thing that I can say or do in this moment? If you don't want to use the word love, what is the most honoring or respectful thing that I could say or do? Honoring and respectful of myself first, the way that I want to show up in this particular conversation, and then for the other person. Because a lot of times that will edit how we say things. That doesn't mean nice again, because sometimes you have to be firm. Sometimes you have to say, look, MFer, because it's loving for me to say that to you before I throw a bottle at you. So I'm not, again, this is not about, oh, it's not about that.
Right.
It's about love. Like I want to see the good in you and the good in me. And before I pull out a knife and stab you, I'd rather just curse you out because at least you'll be living. You know what I mean? So I don't want to be fake and phony and fluffy, but
Right.
just think about what is the most loving thing. And sometimes silence is the most loving thing you can do. And then respond at a later time. I'm not saying, shrink back and not say what you feel that you need to say to the person, but timing is everything. You
So
have to
and
be wise
Okay.
and
You
discerning.
want?
Go ahead.
I
no,
really want to say this because you said you want to get down to nitty gritty. Okay, so
Yeah.
with communication, as far as I go, and I'm saying this not only in my marriage but relationships. With my sister, with friends, I'm aggressive,
mhm,
and sometimes
Mhm.
mhm.
it's not always received well. And so, and I know like for my husband, it shuts him down, even if I have valid points or whatever. So I need help on not being so angry.
Yeah. So you know what? So that's a good point because there are women that I've worked with and men who are very aggressive in their communication, and it can be very off-putting to people. So, couple things. Um, you can be angry and sin not. Right? You can be angry because if you have just cause to be angry, it's okay. We make anger, something that's bad or evil, and it's not. There's just cause for evil. I mean, for anger. But the sin not part is don't cut his penis off
Okay.
Right.
and expressing your anger.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we castrate,
And
you
Right.
know, our men, or
Mm.
we
Yeah.
demean the people who love us. And so that's the loving part. It's like, and guess what? If you're aggressive and that's your personality, it's okay. You can be aggressive in love. You
Right.
can be aggressive in respect.
Okay.
Listen, honey, like I am not, you know, I love you and I respect you. At the same time, when you do these things, it continues to frustrate me. It continues to anger me. And
Okay.
I don't want to, I don't want this to be real talk. I don't want this to be a problem in our relationship because it's going to just make me get further and further away from
Right.
you. I love you
Mm.
so much. I want to have these conversations. Like, because
Yeah.
that's another thing. Like, we don't tell each other the truth.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
piss each
that's my
other around
question.
stuff. Yeah, we don't tell
Venus.
each other the
Yeah.
truth, and we just act like everything is okay. We don't
Right.
ask each other deeper questions. And I have a point for that too in the second.
Mhm.
But what happens? We just kind of just talk and not really understand each other. It's just a mess in a lot of relationships. So this is a quick saying for those who tend to be more aggressive. Instead of being fast and furious, every time I turn around, you blah 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 blah. That's fast and furious.
Mm.
Be slow and curious. Honey, what is it that makes you repeatedly disregard me when I ask you to do so and so? Like, what is that about? What's getting in the way of you being able to do A, B, and C?
Mm.
That's a
Honey, I keep
mhm.
asking you. Yeah, so in other words, instead of psh,
Mhm.
psh, slow down, slow and curious. Now, this is the thing: it's not to patronize anybody; it's to really get them. That
Mhm.
if I have to tell you something 15 times, can you help me understand why I'm having to tell you that?
Yes.
And not in a sarcastic way. What is it that's making you not do these things?
Yes.
Do you
Mhm.
think we should do something different? Because that's another part of relationship compromise. How
Yeah.
can we meet each other in the middle? Because sometimes we're extreme ends. And I always encourage couples, instead of being here and here, find a way to be here.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so it's like, okay, honey, if what I'm asking of you is too challenging, let me know. Because this is another downfall in relationships. We expect each other to be mind readers.
Right.
He should know this. She should know this.
Right.
How? If you don't tell me.
Right.
Like that is one of the chief complaints I hear. Well, he should know that or she should know that and it's like, if you want something, ask for it. Ask and you shall receive,
Mm.
and your joy will be made complete. Knock and the door shall be open. Like ask.
Can you?
I shouldn't have to ask.
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Can you
Go
give me
ahead.
some tips on patience? Patience is really. I have zero patience for the bullshit. I'm not your mother's house, so I can't cuss.
Yeah,
For the bullshit, my patience is just like, because like you said, you expect your mate or other people to already know, and then I'm listening to you with the you know stop being fast and furious and
Yeah.
calm and curious,
Yeah. Mhm.
but how much patience you gotta have
Sometimes.
for all of that? My
no,
patience
no.
is like, boy, you must not know about me.
Yep. No,
Yeah,
I get it. And it's hard to be patient. I admit it. And I know
patience
that
is
firsthand.
my thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it firsthand. So it depends on your situation. But as a general rule, let's say can you give me a little example? You can give me a simple one without putting too much of your business out there.
Well, no, just basically like, say for instance, something that you know I've been calm and curious with you with, and we've talked about it and talked about it, and then you go do it again. Like, do I always got to be calm and curious, or can I start now getting fast and furious?
It was slow and curious. Slow and
Yeah,
curious.
that.
Not calm.
Okay,
Slow.
slow.
Slow
Okay,
and
Slow.
curious.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
Slow,
slow
yeah,
and
not
curious.
calm, not
yeah.
calm.
Yes,
Patience runs
yes.
thin with certain things that you have to say over and over. And I know that relationships are work and it's a job and stuff like that, but I don't think I'm getting paid enough.
No, it's a lot. So this is the thing about it. So it's an excellent question because it's something that a lot of people need. So when it comes to patience, couple things. Let's say if it's I need you to hang something on the wall.
Mm.
And it's like I've been asking you this for 3 months now, and it's still not done. You have to ask yourself, what is my sense of urgency around this picture being hung on the wall? Like, really? Like we'll be mad and have an attitude for 3 months for a picture being hung on the wall.
Mhm.
You got to ask yourself why, like what difference would it really make? And it could make a big difference, but it's just you assessing for yourself. Do I really need to be this impatient? Because a lot of times, Yvette, and again, I'm guilty of it. We are so future oriented. I want that picture on the wall. I want this done. We need to get that done, that we miss out on the day to day of life.
Mhm.
And so, a part of life is being more mindful,
Mhm.
meaning I need to appreciate and embrace all of where I am right now. I am so grateful and thankful that I have a husband that while he takes 10 months to hang a picture on the wall, I know that he loves me and he brings me home my favorite meal every day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like just learning to appreciate and not fixate on the things that are going wrong, because then if we're not grateful, we miss out on the blessings. But the
Mhm.
second thing is this. There's this thing that we have and we call it the worry tree. So it's like
Yeah.
just envision a tree. At the top of the worry tree is the problem. And so on one side of the tree, it says, can I do anything about this? If the answer is yes to the problem, yes, I can do something about this problem, then you do it. So for example, my husband is not putting this picture on the wall. So I'm going to ask my brother to come over and do it. Sorry, husband, I gave you 10 months. Then the picture is on the wall.
Mhm.
But if the answer is no, no matter how many times I tell my husband to put this picture on the wall, he lets life distract him. You know what? My husband doesn't know how to be focused. He's all over the place and he doesn't know how to do the simple things. So I have to release him. I have to free him up from this. I have to release the worry and the anger over it because it's
Right.
not going to get done. Because if you hold on to it, you'll be married for 50 years with a grudge. Some things in marriage we have to really just let go of and release because we have to understand big picture. This is who the person is.
Right.
Now, in relationships, we do have non negotiables. Like, I'm not saying lower your standards. You do have non negotiables. But if you can negotiate that he doesn't do the little things around the house that you might want him to do, then you can still live with him. Now, a non negotiable, an example of that would be like, I'm not going to have a husband who beats on me. That's a non negotiable. You don't get any chances. There ain't no patience to have. Get out. Bye.
Right.
See ya. Right? So, but the things that you can kind of live with, it's like
Right.
release. Like we want our spouses to be a certain way, and it's like whether it's you, his mama, another woman that might come into his life later, his children, certain things ain't gonna never change. And we fight and fight, but it's like beating the air.
Mhm.
So you have to know what you can accept and not accept. But again, to go back to the original, how do I be patient? Either ask yourself, is it that important, or release it?
Okay.
Mhm.
Because you've been doing it for 10 months. That means it ain't working.
Right.
There you go.
So let it go.
Okay.
Anything else?
Good,
Um.
Jadine. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Did
Go
you,
ahead.
Jadina, did you have something?
Well, we were talking about communication and you had said something, and I was just going to ask you what you think the difference between being honest, like you were talking about being honest about how you feel or being honest about what's going on. What's the difference between being honest and being transparent?
So if you think about the word, and I kind of use them they're intertwined. I don't think of them too much differently, but transparent is just being able to see, right? When you think about something that's transparent, you can see through it. Um, so you people can just see who you are, and they can see what you're thinking or feeling, whether you tell them or not. Honest is like if somebody asks you a question and you tell them the honest answer, right? Um, but I can't think of any way that they can show up much differently, Jardina, because let me go back. This is how I look at it, and I use different terminology. I think about being pure, and pure doesn't mean good. Pure means this is what you get.
Yeah. What you see is what you get. Mhm.
Like this is who I am. I'm
Right.
purely me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be pretentious or fake
Mhm.
about anything. I'm purely who I am. But let me go back to sometimes it's not really. Sometimes it's not good to be transparent. And let me tell you what I mean, because this is another thing that come up in a lot of things that we as women struggle with. Going back to the word sacred, something that is connected to God, something that is higher.
Mhm.
a lot of times, if it's sacred, it's something that's intimate between you and the other person. But when we're transparent, we'll get around our friends and be like, his penis is this size, and he don't do that, and he quick. And it's like, ain't your relationship sacred? Why are you that transparent when you're exposing stuff that doesn't need to be exposed to other people? Because that's sacred. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And even in relationships, like one of the things that we think that when we get married or when we get into a committed relationship, we're supposed to own the person. No, there's some stuff that is preserved for the person. Like I know we all have grave issues, stuff that's going to the grave with us. And then you don't have to give all of that to the person that you love.
Right.
You were born by yourself unless you're a twin. And even then that you were born in your own body. Like I am not an advocate of telling your mate everything. Some stuff is just sacred between you and God, or maybe you and your mom, or maybe you and a sibling, or you and somebody else in a relationship. So transparency is not always necessary. Now, honesty, yes. If you ask me a question, I need to tell you the truth, or at least say to you, I don't want to tell you.
Right.
Don't just leave you hanging.
Right.
Because I might say, no, I'm not answering that question. It's something that is private to me and I don't want to share that with you. Or I don't believe you'll handle it well, so I'd rather not do that. But to be fake and just come up with a lie, no. That stuff catches up with you.
Right.
It
Right.
takes away the purity of who you are and who
Right.
I am and who we are as a unit.
Preach,
Mhm.
girl.
Yeah, it just takes
Yeah.
away. It does. It does. So,
No.
And you don't
yeah.
have to like, you know, give information, because I think that's what you kind of were talking about, Jordina, like just like giving information without being asked about it or whatever, like in that sort of way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when you're initially getting to know someone, right, there's a period where you're trying to learn someone. And, the question comes up. It's like, listen, you ask me something, I'm going to answer it. I'm going to be honest. But I also don't always feel the need just to run down a laundry list of stuff, whatever. I mean, it could be
It's
basic,
not
but
necessary.
you
Yeah,
know
it's
what I
not
mean?
necessary.
Like that level of transparency, especially in a new situation where that level of sacredness or closeness or that ability that we're functioning as a unit doesn't exist, that level of transparency. But this is the stuff, and listen, I'm not speaking for me, I'm speaking for all singles, because I think it's important to have that as a conversation. There's things like, well, you need to be transparent and you need to do this, and so you get all of this sort of advice. And once again, I think it's important for you to be able to filter through what works for you and what is the right level of I guess interaction or transparency for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I agree 100%. So even to speak to that, it depends on the people involved, right? But this is how you can kind of just get through it all. In the beginning of a relationship, you kind of establish certain norms within your relationship. These two people coming together, so it doesn't have to be like anybody else's. But the simple solution is to say, if you have a question, please ask it. It's
Right.
that
Right.
simple. If you have a question, because that's another thing, even in relationships, I think my husband, I'm wondering if he, well, if you're wondering or if you think
Ask.
it, just ask.
Yeah.
So, like, you can say to the person that you're getting to know, like, listen, I don't just voluntarily share everything. I mean, my life is a beautiful tapestry made up of many threads. I can't sit here and go through every thread and talk about the colors and textures because it took 40 some years to create this, and there's actually more that will be added. You're a part of it now. So, if you have a specific question, I don't mind you asking. I may not tell you, but just feel free to ask. That's the opening, because you know what, this is another thing in relationships that makes us feel like we can tell people stuff. We don't talk enough about this. We have to feel safe.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to be emotionally safe enough to be vulnerable with you.
Right.
I need to be emotionally safe enough to feel like I can be 100% honest and not have you judge me or criticize me or condemn me or throw it in my face every time we have an argument,
Yeah.
because that's a part of what shuts us down, right? In relationships, we don't feel safe.
Mhm.
You're a threat to my emotional safety, so I ain't telling you a thing. You
That's
know what I mean? But yeah,
that's
yeah, just say it.
that's
That's
true.
big.
Yeah.
Huge. That's
You
huge for
shouldn't have to
people.
feel like
Yeah.
you're going to be judged by the person that claims to love you and have things thrown into your face. Like that's not a healthy relationship. And you also have to set boundaries or set your limitations. Like this is, this is what I can deal with within this relationship, and this I know I gotta go. And then
Yeah.
you don't waver from that, because the more you do that, the more things you end up taking on and continuing on, and something that maybe should have ended, you know.
Absolutely. That's those non-negotiables,
Yeah.
right? There's certain
Absolutely.
things that you just can't. Yeah, it's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
So.
And that's for like, again, we're talking about romantic relationships right now, but that's for every relationship
Mhm.
that you have,
Yep.
whether it's your parents, whether it's your siblings, your friends, coworkers, or whoever. People need to have limitations. You have to set those boundaries
Yeah.
for your own mental health and well-being. It's really
Absolutely.
important.
You
See,
know
but
what?
I
And the
think
way that I like. Oh, go ahead, Jordina.
no. I was gonna say, I think what happens though is you kind of like, you hear or you grow up thinking, okay, relationships are, you have to communicate. Communication has to be good. It requires compromise. And what happens though is that people mistake compromise. Like,
Mhm.
we can compromise on the fact that I want to eat out 5 days a week, and maybe
Mhm.
you want to eat out 2 days a week. Like, that's compromise, but I can't compromise on, like what you were saying, Dr. La-Rhonda, are the non-negotiables. And that's where
Mhm.
people start to compromise. They compromise on the non-negotiables. And that's the stuff you shouldn't be compromising on.
You shouldn't, because what happens over time is that you just kind of let your guard down, and then now it's a negotiable.
Yeah.
It's like somebody put it to me this way: it's like a baby who poops on themselves, right? When they first poop, they may feel a little discomfort, but after they sit in it for a while, they don't realize there's anything wrong until somebody else comes around and smells it, because we just kind of let our guards down. So you're right; you can't just you have to have the non-negotiables, and in terms of the boundaries, this is the thing. I like to put it this way, because people are like, they feel bad about setting boundaries with their loved ones, and I find this happens more so with adults and their in their parents. You're an adult, and then you're trying to set some limits and boundaries around your parents. So I put it this way: you know those things that you use for babies, like those guards to keep them, like when they're toddlers, the
So
little gates you put
little,
up. You can do it sometimes for your pets. These little gates. It's like little parameters. I don't know
Yeah.
what the official name is. But think about a boundary like that. It's a parameter, like a baby gate that's closed off so that the baby can stay in the gate. But you're still in the house with everybody. Because sometimes people think I'm doing something wrong. I'm violating the family trust or the family closeness by setting boundaries. It's like, no, you're still with the family. You're still in the same house with them. Let's think about it metaphorically. You're still a part of the family, but you just got some boundaries around you. You're just saying, mommy, daddy, honey, children, y'all can't go past this line. This is mommy's space. This is my space. And even around your relationship, this is our spaces as partners in life, as spouses,
Mhm.
that even people from the outside don't need to invade your space as a couple, because that comes up a lot too, especially when it comes to in-laws. So boundaries are very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anything
Wow.
else?
Yeah.
You got anything else?
Mm-mm. No, I
You got
think
any other
this.
questions, Jordina?
I mean, we could go on for on, like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
really.
like we could go on and ask questions. I know you were talking about, specific examples or specific situations. And so I'm going to ask one more then. In terms of the holidays,
Hmm.
um, and everybody on here has some level of sort of blended family in their life, but in terms of relationships, how do you navigate, I guess, the holidays and navigate, spending time between each, like deciding or compromising, if you will, in terms of, we're going to allocate this amount of time to your family or this amount of time to your kids or this amount of time? Like, how do you make that work when there's children and other families involved in terms of relationships, and keep the peace?
I think that's a like a couple by couple basics, because everything the same thing's not going to work for you. That's going to work for me. I mean, you just have to excuse me, Miss La-Rhonda, Dr. La-Rhonda.
It's
I'm just
okay.
talking about me specifically being
No, it's
in the
fine.
family, and that's the first blended family I've ever had. So everything that worked last time don't work this time. And then children are older now, so it's a little bit easier. But the way the world is now, just gotta stay home.
So how do you determine what works for you and your mate? I guess that's the question, Dr. Laurent. Like, how do you guys come up with a plan to make it work?
So I was actually about to say something to what Yvette was saying, like, it's different for every family because every family have their own culture, traditions, and things like that. And I'm gonna go back to square one. You gotta just talk about it. Let's sit here and talk. Let's communicate about it. Let's not make any assumptions. You know what I mean? And if there's an argument, how can we meet each other in the middle? And then if you have children, especially younger children involved, you always have to go back. What is in the best interest of our children? Because we can advocate for ourselves, they can't. You know what I mean? And so, I have some couples who are separated or divorced, and that has come up even around this Christmas. And so, one of the things that I have enjoyed is that a few couples that I work with are people who have, like, blended families. The child will wake up in one home and go to the other home. That's an example of how people meet in the middle. You know what I mean? So it's like, but it's through conversation, slow and curious. Let's ask each other questions. What do you need? This is what I need. Like, what do you need to feel like you can be a special part of our child's life that day? What would make you happy? In the beginning of the year, what holidays are most important to you that you feel like you want the children with you? What holidays can you just kind of pass on? How can we meet each other in the middle? It's all through conversation. And it's really up to the parents more than anybody else. Now, the thing is, let's say if you have another mate, now this is where it can get sticky. And I have a real, this is a tough one because I might step on some toes. I don't know. I'm not making any assumptions. I don't know anything. Um, so this is sticky. When you get into a relationship with somebody who has children, please remember that they have children. Before you came into the picture, they had children. So don't come in the picture saying, "Well, we do this." No, they have children. Like, if you get with somebody who has children, you marry somebody who has children, you partner with somebody who has children, you're partnering with them and their children.
Yes.
Period.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
So if they prioritize their children on certain days, and you're like, "But I'm the," no, you entered into this relationship. Now, if something happens after the marriage, that's a different story, and that makes it complex. They go out and have a baby on you. That's a whole nother different ball game. But it's still their children. But it's a whole nother layer to that. But if you get with somebody who already has children, they have certain traditions and rituals around their children. You got to honor that.
Yeah.
Because the children you don't want the children to be collateral damage to the adult problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's not fair to them.
No.
Yeah.
So right now, I guess in the midst of this pandemic, do you have any resources, like if people are seeking counseling, if people are wanting to talk to a therapist, if they are tired, they have been in this house 9 months with each other during this pandemic, and they need to reach out or want to reach out and seek counseling or seek guidance, what suggestions do you have or resources do you suggest that they look into?
So it's a couple things. One is the basic level. If you have insurance, you go onto your insurance website and you find who are the providers in that network. Because you want counseling to be affordable. Counseling can be expensive over time, especially if you want to go every week. So it would be good if you can do it through your insurance company. And there are good providers in every practice. There are not so great providers in every practice. So that would be step 101. But the second thing is, a lot of times it's word of mouth. So you might ask around. Jordina, you've even blessed me, and you guys have said, so thank you. Most of the clients that I see are referred to me by others who have seen me. But then also they have different websites. So Psychology Today is an excellent one, because with Psychology Today, you can put in location, You can put in the ethnicity of the therapist you want. You can put in the therapist who may specialize in a certain area like LGBTQ or trauma. So and it's free to you. The provider pays that fee. I'm in Delaware, and so there's a sister who just developed um, a network. I think it's called the Black Therapist, Delaware Black and Brown Therapist Network or something. I'll have to get that to you guys. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
But if you want a Black or brown therapist, you can actually look on her website. And I noticed that she has people from Pennsylvania as well as Delaware and maybe even New Jersey. It's really easy to find a provider, but the insurance will make it the most affordable. I will say that, especially because this is what I recommend to people. When you first start therapy, you should go every week, at least for 6 weeks. And then you can titrate it down maybe to once a month or every 6 months or as needed, but at least for the first 6 weeks, because you can't expect real transformation in one session.
Well, we appreciate it so much. I mean, this has been such a blessing for you to come on and share your wisdom with everybody. We just continue to encourage people to seek out counseling, to work on self, to work on relationship. It's just so important now more than ever. And so we really appreciate you, Dr. La-Rhonda. Thank you.
No problem. You're welcome. Can I
Yeah.
just say one more thing before we go? Because I think this is really common in our culture. Counseling doesn't mean something's wrong with you.
Right.
Because that's why people stay away from it. The stigma is I'm crazy, something wrong with me. No, we all got stuff. Going to a counselor is just somebody that's neutral that you can kind of process life with. The answers are usually within you. The counselor just helps you bring those answers out. So look at it as a conversation. Look at it as somebody who's on a journey with you. That's all.
Nice.
Thank you so much
Yes,
for
I
being on the
enjoyed
show.
it.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Yes,
right.
thank you.